There's a mistake that many authors make, especially authors who are super creative. And that mistake is either ignoring genre conventions altogether or maybe adhering too rigidly to them. You might be wondering what in the world is a genre convention? And you might also be like, okay, I kind of know about these, but I don't know if I need to stick to them. And you might be wondering, are they actually important, these genre conventions, for the craft of writing and also for success in writing in my chosen genre? So in this episode of the How to Be an Author podcast, we're going to be talking about genre conventions, what they are, how to stick to them and why you want to do that, and also how to subvert them maybe, and why you might want to or not want to. I think it's important as an author to know what you're dealing with before you choose to kind of transgress it. And also, if you're aiming for more monetary or financial success when it comes to your writing, or more of a major commercial success when it comes to your book, you might want to know about what it is like to write genre fiction and to answer to your readers' expectations. When you ignore conventions, you're leading to maybe some confusion and disinterest from readers who are expecting certain elements from a specific genre. Conversely, adhering too strictly to conventions might result in cliched or predictable storytelling, and you don't want that either. So in this episode, we're going to be talking all about finding the right balance between honoring these genre expectations and adding fresh and original elements so that you can create engaging and memorable work. If you're a writer dreaming of becoming a successful author, join me, writing coach Karena Akhavein, on the How to Be an Author podcast, your weekly source for writing information, inspiration, and motivation. Hello and welcome to the How to Be an Author podcast. I am your host, writing coach Karena Akhavein, and it is my passion in life to help authors like you get to the level of success that you're dreaming of with your writing. And you know what? You define your success, and you also define what kind of writing you're doing, which kind of genre you're doing, if any genre at all, right? So what are genre conventions? They refer to the common themes, motifs, narrative structures, character types, and stylistic elements that are typically associated with a particular literary genre. And these genres include romance, thriller, horror, mystery, things like that, historical fiction. Each of these genres has conventions that serve as a set of guidelines or expectations, not just for the author, but also for the reader within a genre. It provides this sort of familiar framework for storytelling that basically tells your reader what to expect. Now, you might be wondering, should I respect genre conventions as an author? Well, there are some benefits for this, both for writers and for readers. The first thing is that you have clear expectations. When a reader knows what type of story they can expect to encounter, they know how to engage with it. They know how to choose a book that aligns with their interests, their preferences, and all of that good stuff so that they have more satisfaction with their reading experience. When you are on your Kindle or you're in a bookstore and you're trying to figure out what kind of book you want to read, oftentimes you tend to navigate to different parts of the bookstore. First of all, you might go to the tables where, the staff from the bookstore has recommended certain books, their favorites. But then once you've exhausted those, you might be like, you know what, I'm going to go look in certain genres. So maybe you're going to be going towards those books that have covers that skew on the pink side of things, right? The girly romance things. Or maybe you're going to be looking for those books that have dark covers and, they look mysterious, and you're looking at the mystery or the thriller. Many of us start to develop a genre that we like to read more, and many authors have a genre that they like to write more. So it's important, when you start to define those things, all of that starts to impact the expectations from your writing. When you're adhering to genre conventions, you can create these immersive worlds and compelling narratives that resonate with your reader, especially the reader who enjoys a particular genre. It's almost like with these familiar tropes and themes, you're creating a shorthand that draws your reader into the story and keeps them engaged from beginning to end because you're speaking a common language that gets them engaged and immersed more quickly. You're forging a connection with your audience. When you are respecting genre conventions, you're connecting with a specific audience that shares an appreciation for your specific genre. By delivering on the expectations of your target audience, you are more easily building a loyal readership and cultivating a sense of community amongst fans of your genre. Are there opportunities for creativity? Hell yeah, there are. Even within genre conventions. Genre conventions, think of them as a framework, but within that, you can be exercising your creativity and storytelling skills to any level that you want to. You're adhering to certain conventions, but you also have the freedom to innovate, experiment, and put your own unique spin on familiar tropes. This is something that can lead to fresh and inventive storytelling. And it's almost an exercise of like, how much can I be inventing within the limits of my genre? It's kind of cool. If you're writing within an established genre, you can get more recognition and validation within the literary community for people who really focus on that one genre. Because you all know, if you're writers or readers, you know that there's so many books published every single day. But if you are within a genre and you're finding a position within that genre, you're now limiting that playing field to that one genre. And then you're going to have more chances to receive accolades, awards, and acclaim for your work within the genre because you've just limited it to that one type of writing. This really helps your marketability and your visibility. You are much more marketable and much more visible to those readers who are actively seeking out books within that genre. Remember how I was talking about the bookstore where you go into this certain section because you're actively seeking out that genre? That happens in the bookstore. It happens on your Kindle. It happens on your iPad. It happens online. Publishers and marketers can effectively target specific audiences based on genre categorization, leading to increased sales and exposure for your book. So when you are putting yourself in this one genre, you might feel like you're pigeonholing yourself, but you are also creating more opportunities to be found. You're also creating new opportunities to be accessible to new readers because when a reader is super into one genre, they're going to exhaust some of the books that they've been reading, their favorite authors. And then this is where you're on your Kindle and you see something like, hey, did you enjoy this book? You might like this book. Because you are in that genre. You're delivering on the key elements and themes. And so now these readers feel comfortable expanding their reading horizons because they know that this is going to be something similar to what they like. So I think that overall, respecting literary genre conventions enhances the reading experience for your reader, but it can also foster creativity and innovation for you, the writer. It contributes basically to this depth and diversity in the literary landscape, but also it helps people to know what they're looking for and it helps you to know where you fit. Now, what if you're one of these authors who's thinking to yourself, I don't want to respect these conventions. I'm a rebel. I want to be outside of these genre conventions. Is that okay? Well, it's a free country. You're allowed to do whatever you want. But here are some of the possible risks of what happens when you are not respecting the conventions of your chosen genre, or if you're jumping around genres or trying to do some genre bending stuff. Now, don't worry. This is not going to be all negative because I am going to have a whole section about how it's okay to be transgressing these genres once in a while. But first of all, let's be Debbie Downers and tell you what might happen that's not so great. You might be alienating your reader. Yes, genre conventions serve as expectations for readers. So if you're ignoring these completely, your reader who enjoys the genre that you claim you're writing in, they might feel kind of confused or disappointed. And you know what that means? It doesn't just mean that they go away. It means that they might leave you a negative review. And that is not what you want. Otherwise, they might also not be engaging with your books. So if you're deviating from the expectations, the things that your audience enjoys, Your reader might be struggling to connect with your story, with the characters, with the setting, all of that stuff. And basically that leads to lack of interest. And you know what that leads to? Lack of sales. And that is really hard to get around, right? Publishers and marketers rely on categorizing genres to target specific audiences. So if your book doesn't fit neatly into a genre and you are not famous, it's going to be challenging to market your book effectively. You're going to have fewer opportunities for promotion and exposure. And also, when you're straying too far from genre conventions, literary critics and fellow writers are going to be like, hey, that's really nice. Like you say you're writing romance, for example, but you're being far too experimental. And, your need for innovation, that's nice and all, but your reader is not happy. And we're not really feeling like you're part of the same community that we are. And that's not ideal. It's not something you can't overcome, but it's not ideal. And also, like when you're not consistent within your genre, you're not going to be building a brand and identity as easily within the literary world. So if you're confusing those readers and you are saying, hey, I'm in this genre, but I'm actually not writing in that genre, you're going to be damaging your brand and your reputation overall. And this contributes to difficulty in publishing success. If you're doing all this, your publisher is not going to want to take a chance on you. Now, let's note, though, this is very important to note that some authors are intentionally breaking their genre conventions, and they're actually doing it well. They're creating fresh, innovative storytelling, and they're doing it thoughtfully and skillfully. And this is leading to critical acclaim and maybe even commercial success. However, it is important to note that it's not all bad if you are intentionally breaking genre conventions. There are some authors who create these amazing, fresh, innovative works of fiction because they've done it thoughtfully and skillfully. And many times this will lead to critical acclaim and even commercial success. Now, the success of a book that deviates from genre conventions usually depends on factors like the author's skill, the quality of their storytelling, and, this is very important, the receptiveness of the audience to new and unconventional approaches. Genre-bending fiction refers to works that blend elements from multiple genres, and this creates this unique storytelling experience. So what kind of works am I talking about? I'm going to be kind of talking about works from all different time periods. One of them was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Even if you haven't read this book by Douglas Adams, you probably know that it's kind of a mix of science fiction, comedy, and satire. What made it work? It was a bit absurd. It was humorous. There was social commentary, but there was also the science fiction, and it was all combined in this whimsical way with these memorable characters and philosophy. So a wide audience was kind of happy to say that they read this and that it kind of spoke to them. Another book that I read a while back that actually worked in terms of combining different genres was American Gods by Neil Gaiman. This is blending fantasy, mythology, mystery, and thriller, and it works because there's also this like American folklore mythology side to it, and it's a totally immersive world. This novel also is very thematic. It has this whole idea about identity and cultural clashes, and readers who are going to read this book are interested probably in both fantasy and literary fiction, and that's why it works, because again, it's done skillfully. I think that probably your best bet when you're trying to write genre-bending fiction is to make sure that your prose is beautiful, that your backdrop is really, really interesting and super immersive, and also that you've got amazing characters that your reader can fall in love with. If you add some really strong themes and something that can lead to discussion amongst readers, then you probably have some kind of a chance. So again, the readers that you are trying to appeal to here are representing a broad range of people. So by blending elements from different genres, you're hoping that you're going to be finding more readers rather than less readers, right? So you're not planning on people who are super engaged in a single genre, but more people who are looking for something different. But I think that in general, authors should be pretty familiar with genre conventions because they are providing that framework. And then once you understand what the genre conventions are, that's when you have the freedom to deviate. That's when you have the knowledge that's going to empower you to be more subversive and more innovative in your writing. If you're looking to build the kind of knowledge that's going to help you to write and publish your book in 6 months and build an author platform in that same time without the pitfalls and headaches that usually come with it, you're going to want to check out my masterclass from idea to published in 6 months. Go check out my website, onlineCoursesForWriters.com, and you will see it right there. You will not be sorry you took this course if you are serious about finally making your writing dreams come true in the next 6 months. Students who've taken this class said that they've never gotten so far in their writing dreams and in their writing projects. I'm so proud to have helped so many writers like you to hit writing success on their own terms without the burnout. So let's talk about the question of what are the expectations of various genres. These expectations are going to touch on things like themes, plot structures, character types, settings, writing styles, etc., etc. So we're going to be going through all different genres, and I'm going to tell you kind of the major expectations of that genre. But remember that there are certain core elements. Maybe a central puzzle, maybe magical elements, maybe a certain type of setting or characterization, some type of tone and atmosphere that is kind of common to your genre. And then you take that, you look at the audience expectations, and you decide how you are going to innovate. So let's talk about these different genres I mentioned. So romance, first of all. When you have a romance book that you are writing, your romance book must be focusing on the romantic relationship. Oftentimes, it's going to involve protagonists who are overcoming obstacles to be together. In terms of the character types, you've got a heroine that is relatable. You've got a hero who's kind of compelling. Each one has their own flaws and strengths. But the plot structure is going to follow a predictable arc that includes initial attraction, conflict, and resolution, which leads to a happily ever after ending. This is crucial. If you have a so-called romance story and your ending is not happy and the characters don't end up together, at least for now, you're going to disappoint some readers who got invested in your story. In terms of setting, you have kind of some more leeway, but you need to look at what the expectations are, whether you're writing about historical romance or whether you're writing about something that's more contemporary. Each of these is going to have its own expectation. Now let's talk about mystery and thriller. The central element focuses on solving a puzzle or a crime. There are elements of suspense and danger. If you don't have these, people are going to be disappointed. Your protagonist is typically somebody who's a sleuth, whether amateur or a professional detective, somebody who's drawn into the mystery, either willingly or against their will. And then you're going to have some plot twists and maybe red herrings to keep readers guessing. But in these genres, if you have too many red herrings that are actually super fake and that are manipulating your reader in a way that's unfair, your audience is going to be mad. These genres are usually espoused by writers who are really good at building tension and who study their pacing so that they can create this suspense and keep playing on the idea of high stakes. When we're talking about science fiction, we are really focusing on world building. We're creating these immersive settings with attention to scientific principles or imaginative concepts. We're exploring maybe futuristic technology, alien worlds, or alternate realities. It's all about speculative elements. Themes are very important with this, like things about society, ethics, and philosophy. these questions that are raised by these advancements in science and technology in your book. And your characters are often going to be scientists, explorers, or maybe even aliens, but in any case, these individuals that are navigating this brave new world of yours. So basically, you're going to be able to use these sorts of concepts to imagine what I'm talking about in terms of the genre requirements of things like fantasy or historical fiction or horror as well, right? There's some elements that are non-negotiable. Imagine if you're telling your reader that you're writing horror, for example, and you don't have any fear or suspense, you don't have any kind of psychological terror, and you're not exploring these darker themes, your reader's going to come away a little bit disappointed. So I understand that some writers, especially the ones who are very creative, feel a little creatively stifled when it comes to these genre conventions. I get it. It's a common challenge for many writers, and I have tons of writers who have said this to me in my career as a writing coach. And I've developed some strategies that can definitely help you to overcome this feeling while maintaining your creative spark, but also not shooting yourself in the foot. So the first thing that you might want to do is study other genres. Maybe you adopted your genre without really thinking about it, and you need to gain some perspective and inspiration by reading widely. There's nothing bad that can come of reading widely and checking out new storytelling techniques, new themes, new narrative styles. You can start to incorporate these into your own writing, and you can start to write a work that's more nuanced and that is still firmly within your genre, but that has a little bit of inspo from another genre. That can be really fun. You can experiment as well with hybrid genres. There's nothing wrong with that. Mixing genres can offer you this creative outlet, but think about, okay, is my hybrid genre working or not? Focus on things like characters and themes. Instead of strictly adhering to genre tropes, maybe you want to prioritize things like character development and thematic exploration. Strong characters and themes can transcend genre boundaries and engage readers on a deeper level. And this is something that you can be playing with, and that can definitely help you to move past the idea that you are being stifled. Challenging conventions is okay. Push the boundaries, be innovative, but also ask yourself, is this working? Feedback is crucial. I really always recommend that you share your work with beta readers or critique partners or a writing group. These are the sorts of people that are going to give you that crucial constructive feedback, and they're going to help you with your ideas and tell you whether your new approaches, whether those creative risks are actually worth it. But ultimately, you want to trust your voice. You are the creative. You've got this unique vision. Maybe you should stay true to your creative instincts. Does that mean that you're not going to necessarily be as marketable? Maybe. But if it's important to you to be creative like that, maybe you should do that. Embrace that experimentation. But let's talk about the beta readers that I talked about. So you're seeking feedback from your beta readers. You want to ensure that the expectation of your ideal reader is met with your book, whether it's in one genre or in the other. It is essential for you to have these readers read your book and tell you whether it's working for them. And sometimes it's hard for them to express what's working, what's not working. Usually they know kind of instinctively. I often tell my writers that beta readers can tell you what's wrong with your book, but they can't tell you how to fix it. That's kind of true. But you could be asking these targeted questions to help you gauge whether your book is aligning with your reader expectations, with or without the genre conventions. Here are some of the questions that you can be asking your beta readers to make double sure that your work is working. First of all, let's talk about genre. Does your story fit within the expected genre? If so, or if not, which genre would you actually classify it under? Were there any elements of the story that felt out of place or inconsistent with the genre that you claim it is? Now, you've got to realize that whenever you're pitching an agent, they're going to ask you what your genre is. And a great way to turn an agent off immediately is to tell them that your book is one genre and then they start reading the first page and they're like, no, it's not. That's a problem. Your beta readers are going to help to rescue you from that situation. Now, what about characterization? Were the characters working? Were they believable and well-developed? Were the protagonist's motivations clear and compelling? Did their actions and decisions align with their personalities and backgrounds? And now, did they seem like a character in the genre that you claim you're writing in, right? If you have a sleuth character, are they working as a sleuth? Are they motivated the right way, etc.? What about the plot and the pacing? Did the plot hold the reader's interest from the beginning? Were there any parts of the story that felt too slow or too fast? Are there any plot twists or developments that were kind of predictable or maybe too unexpected? And did this all feel like something that you would expect from a book in that genre? Now, your readers can be looking at your themes. Are there themes that are commonly associated with the genre that you claim to be part of? Were the themes explored in a meaningful and engaging way? Did the themes resonate with you personally? Now, if you're trying to genre bend, having themes that are super resonant and powerful is going to be one of those ways to be able to transgress and subvert without losing your reader. Same thing with like a super relatable character. These are things where your reader is going to be like, you know what? This went against my expectations, but it was also so cool that I kind of love it. Same goes for the world building, right? Did the setting feel immersive and well-developed? Were there some aspects that were confusing or inconsistent? And did the setting contribute to the overall atmosphere and tone of the story? Is it something that you want to lose yourself in? That's awesome. That also will transcend any kind of, genre expectation, but also if your setting is super strong within the genre and kind of goes above and beyond, that's really wonderful. And really important, did you appreciate the style and voice of the author? Because this also gives you a little bit more leeway, right? If things are effective, if your writing is good, if your voice suits the tone of the story, then you've already won. And finally, for me, the most important thing is the emotional engagement. Did the reader feel emotionally invested in the characters and in their journeys? Because if they don't care, it doesn't matter what genre you're writing in. It doesn't matter if you're being subversive or not, because if you don't care about the character, the story is never going to leave you satisfied. So that's super important to realize. But really, overall, unless you're writing just for yourself, in which case I don't know why you're wasting your time listening to this podcast, because this podcast is all about improving your writing. If you're writing for your reader, if you're trying to create that magical alchemy of words on the page that are speaking to a reader and creating this whole other reality in their mind, you want your writing to work for them. Now, whether that is sticking to a genre, you want to not be disappointing your reader at the end of the day. And that's really the biggest point about genre conventions. They're just shorthand for what does your reader expect and are you giving it to them? If you're going to transgress or subvert, you better be giving them something that's got an even bigger payoff. But I'm curious, what kind of genres do you write in and what is your challenge in writing to genre? Are you feeling like you're hitting your genre conventions? And are you feeling like you've subverted them before and that it worked out well? I'm super curious to hear from you as your writing coach. Feel free to email me. Go visit my website, creativeandwritingcoach.com. If you are finally serious about writing that book and publishing it within 6 months and having your author platform, you know that you can go visit onlineCoursesForWriters.com. I've got my massive writing masterclass. The price for that is going up very, very soon. So if you want to jump in now. The price will never be this good. And I look forward to being with you next time on the How to Be an Author podcast. If you have any pressing writing-related questions or would like to be featured on the How to Be an Author podcast, please feel free to reach out on my website, creativeandwritingcoach.com.